He spent $42 million trying to keep his twins alive, and on a night he almost fired the $22 an hour nanny. Those same twins stopped breathing. Alexander Wentworth was the kind of rich that made magazines run out of zeros. 38 years old, private jets on standby, a mansion in Atlanta so big it had its own zip code. But none of that stopped the phone call that shattered him at 2:17 a.m. 2 years ago. His wife, the woman he'd built an empire to impress, left a voicemail that lasted 8 seconds. "I can't do the sick kids thing anymore, Alex. Don't look for me." She never came back. She never even asked about the twins again. Ava and Noah came into the world 16 weeks early, each weighing less than a bag of sugar. Doctors said it was a miracle they survived the delivery. Then they found a rare autoimmune disease eating their tiny organs from the inside. Every week brought a new bill with more commas and a new specialist shaking his head. Alex attacked the problem the only way he knew: money. He flew the twins to Zurich, to Singapore, to a clinic in Germany that wasn't even open to the public yet. He turned the east wing of the mansion into a hospital that made most ICUs look poor. Machines that cost more than houses beeped day and night. Nurses in color-coded scrubs moved like robots. Nothing worked. The twins only got smaller, paler, quieter. 6 months ago, the agency sent Maya Jackson. 29, single mom, soft Atlanta accent, eyes that looked like they'd already cried every tear God gives you, and still found a few more. The agency said she was the best pediatric nurse nanny in the South. Alex barely glanced at her resume. To him, she was just another employee he'd probably fire by Christmas. Maya didn't follow his rules. She unplugged the feeding pumps 5 minutes early so she could hold the babies skin to skin. She turned off the blinding fluorescent lights and played old gospel songs from her phone. She talked to Ava and Noah like they understood every word. Alex hated it. He hated the way she looked at him when he walked past the nursery without going in. He hated that she was right. One night, he lost it completely. He found her in the nursery at 3 in the morning, rocking Noah against her chest, singing "His Eye is on the Sparrow," so low it was almost a whisper. The monitor schedule was already 2 hours behind. Alex stormed in, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Do you want them to die? Is that it? Because this isn't church, Miss Jackson. Jackson. This is medicine. Get back on protocol or get out." Maya didn't flinch. She laid Noah down gently, turned, and looked straight into the eyes of a man who bought companies before breakfast. "Mr. Wentworth, your machines go beep when something's wrong. They don't hold tiny hands when nightmares come. They don't tell these babies they're loved when the pain medicine wears off. You pay me to keep them alive. I'm doing my job." He opened his mouth to fire her right then. The words were already loaded, but something in her voice, steady, unafraid, full of grief and steel, stopped him cold. He turned and left without another word. He watched the rest on the nanny cam from his office, glass of whiskey burning a hole in his hand. Maya pulled the rocking chair between both cribs so she could touch Ava and Noah at the same time. She prayed out loud, voice cracking, tears falling onto their blankets. "Lord, you see these babies. You love them more than any daddy with private jets ever could. If it's time, carry them gentle. But if it's not, give me strength to fight for them when nobody else will." Alex had not cried since the day his wife left. That night he cried so hard the security guard downstairs thought someone broke in. Hours later, the alarms went off like the world was ending. Noah's oxygen dropped to 32. Ava's heart rate spiked to 220. Nurses flooded the room. The on-call doctor shouted for the crash cart. Alex stood frozen in the doorway, legs made of lead. Maya was already moving. She shoved the doctor aside, tilted Noah's tiny head, started CPR with 2 fingers while singing through sobs. "Why should I feel discouraged? Compress, breathe, compress, breathe." The doctor tried to pull her away. "You're not trained for this." She shook him off like a fly. 30 seconds that lasted 30 years. Then 1 weak cough. 1 gasp. Noah's chest rose on its own. The monitors screamed back to life. Alex sank to the floor right there in the hallway, billionaire in a $5,000 suit. Sobbing like a child, he never said thank you. The next morning, he simply doubled her salary, gave her a key to every room in the house, and told the head nurse, Whatever she says goes. No questions. For the first time in 2 years, he walked into the nursery while the twins were awake. Maya was changing Ava's diaper, humming. She looked up, surprised. Alex stood there awkward, hands in his pockets, not knowing what to do with them. "Hi," he said to his daughter. Just that. "Hi." Ava blinked up at him with huge gray eyes and smiled for the first time in months. That night, he found Maya asleep on the couch outside the nursery, waiting for lab results. Her head was tilted at a painful angle, braids falling loose. Without thinking, he whispered, "You're beautiful," then prayed she hadn't heard. She opened her eyes, looked at him for a long second, and closed them again. But the corner of her mouth lifted just barely. 3 days later, the head of pediatric immunology took Alex into the conference room and closed the door. "We're out of options, Mr. Wentworth. The next major flare, they won't come back from it. I am sorry. You need to start preparing goodbyes." Alex didn't scream. He didn't throw furniture. He just walked to the glass window of the nursery and watched Maya rocking both babies at once, singing softly, tears shining on her cheeks. $42 million. The best doctors on planet Earth. And the only thing standing between his children and death was a woman he'd almost thrown out into the Atlanta night. He pressed his forehead to the cool glass and whispered the first honest prayer of his adult life. "Please, don't take them. I'll give everything. Just don't take them." He didn't know the worst night was still coming, and that when it did, Maya would be the only one ready. The night the twins were supposed to die started with a thunderstorm that rattled the mansion windows like Judgment Day. Both babies spiked fevers of 104.8 within minutes of each other. Their little bodies turned rigid, eyes rolling back, seizures chaining together so fast the monitors couldn't keep up. The lead doctor who had delivered the death sentence days earlier now stood pale at the foot of the beds and said the words Alex had paid the world to never hear. "It's time, Mr. Wentworth. We can keep them comfortable, but we have to stop the suffering." Alex lost his mind. He grabbed the man by the collar, slammed him against the wall, screamed that he would buy the hospital, burn it down, buy another one, anything but let his children go. Security had to pull him off. Nurses were crying. Machines were screaming. And in the middle of the storm, Maya was gone. Alex tore through the mansion, roaring her name like a wounded animal. Kitchen, library, staff quarters, empty. He finally found her in the small chapel nobody had used since his grandmother died. She was on her knees between the pews, face to the floor, praying in a language he didn't know, body shaking so hard the wooden floor creaked. He fell beside her, grabbed her shoulders. "They're dying, Maya. They're dying right now, and you're in here." She looked up, eyes red, cheeks wet, and the look she gave him stopped every word in his throat. "I know," she whispered. "That's why I'm here." Then she told him the truth she had never planned to tell anyone. Her son, Elijah, died at 23 months old from the exact same disease. Same seizures, same fevers, same doctors giving up. On the 39th night, her grandmother had locked the hospital room door, laid hands on Elijah, and prayed until dawn. The fever broke at sunrise. Doctors wrote spontaneous remission because they had no other words. 6 months later, Elijah drowned in a neighbor's pool while Maya was at work. She never got to say goodbye. "I buried my baby," she said, voice breaking in half, "and God sent me yours so I could fight the devil I already know. I'm not giving up on them, Alex. Not tonight. Not ever." Something inside him snapped. The last wall, the last pride, everything. He dropped to his knees beside her, forehead hitting the wood, and for the first time since he was 8 years old, he begged out loud. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to pray. I don't deserve them. Teach me. Please, Maya. Teach me before it's too late." She took both his trembling hands in hers, pressed them to her wet cheeks, and taught the billionaire the simplest prayer on earth. "Say, Jesus, if you're listening, don't take Ava and Noah. Take me instead. I'll go right now if you let them stay." He repeated it until his voice gave out. That night began the 40 nights. Maya moved into the room next to the nursery. Every midnight, no matter how many tubes or wires or doctors were in the way, she and Alex knelt between the cribs and prayed the same desperate prayer. Some nights he cried so hard he couldn't speak, and she finished it for him. Some nights the twins were stable enough that he read them Goodnight Moon, while Maya braided Ava's tiny curls and painted Noah's toenails blue, because babies deserve to feel pretty too. He fired the doctor who wanted to pull the plug, hired 3 new ones who were willing to chase hope instead of protocol. He started eating dinner with Maya in the nursery, passing her sweet tea across the cribs, laughing for the first time in years when Noah grabbed his tie and wouldn't let go. He noticed everything about her now. The way she hummed when she changed diapers, the scar on her shoulder from carrying Elijah on her hip too long, how she never wore makeup because God already signed his name on this face. He started living for the moment. She looked up, and their eyes locked a second too long, that on night 39 the devil came back harder than ever. Both twins seized for 47 minutes straight. The new doctors pumped medicine that should have stopped it in 90 seconds. Nothing worked. Alarms flatlined. Paddles charged. Alex stood in the doorway, screaming Maya's name because she had gone to wash her face, and he was terrified she wouldn't make it back in time. She ran in barefoot, hair wild, took one look at the monitors, and climbed onto the beds like a mother lion. She pulled Ava to her left side, Noah to her right, wrapped an arm around each burning little body, and started singing through raw sobs. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. The doctors shouted at her to get down, that she was in the way. She kept singing. Alex dropped to his knees at the foot of the beds and prayed the only words he had left. Take me, take me, take me. The heart monitor stayed flat. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Then one beep. A second. A third. Ava's tiny hand twitched against Maya's chest. Noah coughed. The lines jumped, then steadied, then climbed. The fever broke so fast the thermometers couldn't register it. Within an hour, both babies were sleeping peacefully, cheeks pink, breathing deep. The lead doctor the next morning stared at the scans like he was looking at a ghost. Every marker of the disease had vanished. Overnight. Completely. He kept saying impossible, until Maya gently took the films from his hand and said, "No, doctor." Miracle. 1 year later, the garden was full of butterflies and children's laughter. Ava, now 4, chased Bubbles in a yellow dress. Noah pushed a plastic lawnmower like he owned the world. Alex stood on the chapel steps holding a tiny velvet box, shaking harder than the night he thought he'd lost everything. Maya walked toward him carrying both twins' hands, sundress fluttering, eyes shining with that same steel and grace that had pulled life out of death. He dropped to one knee. "I spent $42 million trying to buy time," he said, voice cracking, "and you gave me forever for free. You saved my babies. Then you saved me. Maya Jackson, will you let me love you out loud for the rest of my life?" She cried so hard she couldn't speak, just nodded yes over and over while the twins clapped like it was the best game ever. They married in that same chapel 6 weeks later. Simple. White roses and gospel music. Ava scattered petals. Noah carried the rings tied to a blue balloon that floated up to the ceiling and stayed there the whole ceremony like heaven itself was holding them. Alexander Wentworth still has more money than most countries. But every night at midnight, he and Maya kneel between 2 little beds, say thank you instead of please, and fall asleep with tiny arms wrapped around both their necks. Because sometimes the person you almost fired is the one God sent to hand you your whole world back, wrapped in love too big for money to ever buy.